And we're live. This is the Fandom Void live again. Adair, can you bring us in?
Welcome to the Fandom Void.
All right. This is me, Loopy. We got Mama Tay, Adair,
What up?
and,
What up? What it do?
and we have Zach. Let's welcome Zach. He is a new addition. Excuse me, to our to our podcast. He may not always make it, but he'll be on. He should be on off and on or whatever. Excuse
Hello,
me.
hello, hello.
So today we are going to hop into start off by hopping into why I named this episode. It's business, comma. Leave your emotions at the door. I know you're not supposed to say comma, but it's fun, so I do it. Um, and that is a line from one of my favorite movies of all time. Has to be the top two or three. Wolf of Wall Street. If I mean Leonardo DiCaprio, if I wasn't a fan before then, I was definitely a fan afterwards. His performance in that movie was breathtaking. Um, it's a raunchy movie, so it's hard to say something that's raunchy is breathtaking, but alas, it was. Um, and so I love the quotes from that movie. I love the story, and I actually love the guy that the movie is based off of. Um, and today we're also going to discuss John Wick 3. Finally, we discussed it before, but we could not discuss it in detail because Adair had not seen it. But now that he has seen it, wait, Zach, did you go see it?
No, I did. I was not able to go see it,
Oh,
but that's
Oh,
fine. That means I've got as neutral a take on it as it can be. So I can speak for all the other people who might not have seen it.
okay. Because what we do is spoilers. Because I'm about to do heavy spoilers
Oh, that's
today.
fine. I don't mind spoilers. As
All
far as I
right.
know, I haven't even seen the first two John Wicks. So all I know is that it's a three trilogy long movie about a guy who's very upset about his dead dog.
That's not
gosh.
the point. Okay. Oh okay. Hey, Adair, can you give me a funny voice saying spoilers? Spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
We are walking into the danger zone. Um, hats off to those who watch Archer. So we're gonna start with Adair because we've already given our takes on it, and let's hear what Adair thought about it after he saw it.
Okay, let me get started. Let's see. Um, Picking up exactly where the previous movie left off, John Wick uh, is excommunicado, which means he's in a bad way if you don't know. No help, uh, taking on all the assassins around the world, basically. Everybody in New York. I think that's where the movie is originally set. It looks like New York to me. Um, and he shows once again why he is nicknamed Baba Yaga, the boogeyman. Uh, Plenty of shooting, blasting, slicing and dicing. I enjoyed this movie, and I'm going to say the added personage of Halle Berry in this film to me gave me a new respect for Miss Halle Berry. Uh, I loved her character in this movie because she hit the table with I shouldn't help you. I'm not supposed to help you. Uh, you about to mess up what I got going on. Uh, but when the poop hits the fan and she's put in that position, she goes to work just like John Wick. So I really enjoyed this film. Um, they're they're upping the level of energy of adding the animals into the movie, um, and then showing how those who have made it into power can see that there's something wrong and we shouldn't take it. I love that aspect of it, so I'm looking forward to John Wick 4. So I ain't gonna give too much away. I'm gonna kind of leave it right there.
Oh, Adair, you're so nice. I'm about to spoil the shit out of it. Excuse me, Mama Tay.
Go
Okay,
for it.
so starting from the beginning, he's running for his life. Oh no, John Wick running for his life, and then he gets his second chance,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then he gets his second chance, but because he is who he is, and this person has been nothing but decent to him and has had his back in any way that they could, he decided to side with that person.
Hmm. Hmm.
That person is an ass monkey. Excuse me, Mama Tay. He is okay. Excuse me for the rest of this episode. He is an ass monkey to no end, but it's business. It's business. Leave your emotions at the door. It's nothing personal. It's just business. And I get that. But he was really stupid to think that he could just kill John Wick like that.
I don't even understand why he did.
It's not logical.
When he
Nope.
himself said that half of the assassins in New York after John Wick, or all of the assassins after John Wick, and it's just even.
And what do they
Mm-mm.
call him? Baba Yaga?
Baba
Nope,
Yaga.
but
Okay,
you
so
missed
you
it.
think you gonna kill the boogeyman?
I think you missed it though.
What's
You
that?
gotta see the bigger plan because he knew that one, he either had to walk away or they was gonna kill him, right? He knew that. Then they sent his boy, the one he helped, after him. Okay. So he knew one, that suit was a bulletproof suit. So he knew that.
How did he
He
know
was
that?
he knew that because that's what
How?
John Wick wears. Them
No,
suits
no,
they
no, no.
have.
That's not all. John Wick don't always wear bulletproof suits. There's nothing in any movies that specify that John Wick always wears bulletproof suits. So I gotta know where and
Mm-mm.
how he knew that that was a bulletproof suit
In
before
the
we go
f-
with
I
that
Well,
think it
let's
was
assumption.
just
in the
say he hoped profusely.
in the first
By
movie
shooting him off of a building?
when he had to go get that suit. But you got to understand, he was putting on the face. He was playing the face for the adjudicator.
Well, my whole thing is, I want them to shift the tables of power because they prove that they're a powerful force. What I want it to be is, first of all, um, Neo and Morpheus unite again thing. So I want it to be so that they all three come together and either create New York's own system, and then that lady comes in with them that he grew up with and creates New York's own system, or pull the whole U.S. out of it and create their own system. But that would be very, very, very into the triangle people's plan.
The high table won't allow it.
But if they go to war with the high table,
Right.
with the whole of all of New York City, and in New York City,
They
and a
still
lot of
don't have
things
the
tends to be
resources.
the thing that takes over. So if they go to war with the high table, I think that they could be able to at least take one city.
They don't have the resources. I don't think that they do. John Wick is incredible, but he's still one guy. I
Yeah, but
mean,
he's a bad mother. Shut your mouth, Baba
yes,
Yaga.
he is, but
There
he can only be one place at once.
but there isn't that your vision of how you think things should go? That the U.S. have their own high table, or New York has their own high table.
I don't think they're necessarily looking to have a high table. They're just looking to be able to say, you know what, we don't have to do everything the way y'all do it, and so just respect us and we'll respect you.
So is
No,
not
we
the
don't do
whole
that at
point?
all.
Wait, what'd you say, Zach?
No, we don't do that at all. We don't respect anybody. Period.
Well, the
Exactly.
fuck not. We're America.
No, it doesn't matter if you respect us or not. We don't do that whole respect thing. You could follow any treaty that we put up for you to the T, and we still won't follow our end of it.
We
Exactly.
never have. Historically, we have not.
Oh,
Historically, we have not. So here's my deal. So let's start it with Zach. He's like, okay, all I know is this dude is mad about his dog. So Zach, starting at the premise of the first John Wick, what you have is a man who basically murdered his way out of being a criminally very adept assassin. So
wait,
much.
wait, wait. No, no, no. He didn't just murder his way out of it. He created a whole empire for a man to get out of that life.
he had to buy his way out of it, and he did that on a body count.
So
On a body count.
let me put it this way: he killed enough people that somebody else was able to take some high seat in criminal society, and then
Correct.
used him escalating that person to high society to tell that person, "Hey, get me out of this."
That
And he did.
person agreed to help him get out of the game if he made sure that he helped him solidify an empire, which is what he did with a high body count.
He was the muscle.
He killed all of the enemy.
Right.
Put it that way.
All right.
So now he bought his way out, and he had his time with his wife. His wife contracted cancer. Right. And isn't that ironic that you go through all of that and you do all of that to buy your way to a better life, and then the person that you did all of that for dies?
Yeah.
So that's what happens. And because she knows him very well, and she's made her peace with it, but she knows that he's not going to. She already has pre-planned for him to be sent a puppy the day after her funeral.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't about the puppy. It was about the memory of his wife and her very last gift to him, and that letter that's saying, "I want you to start over again."
And they killed the dog because he would not sell them his car. It's ironic because it was the son of the guy who he helped build empire of.
Yeah.
So the guy that he built the empire for and was able to give him all of that, the guy he built the empire for, his son did not know who John Wick was and saw him at a gas station and tried to buy his car from him. And he said it's not for sale. And then the guy spoke in, what did he speak in? Italian?
I think it was Romanian or something.
Russian.
Was it Russian? Oh.
Yeah, he spoke in Russian, and then John Wick was like, I speak Russian.
Some type of Slavic language.
Yeah, and then they got shocked, and then they walked away, and they were done with it. But this, they had somebody tell him or something, and they figured out where he lived, and then they went in the middle of the night and broke into his house and beat him down, and then took his and then killed his dog, and then took his car.
So it wasn't just about the dog. I think John Wick on principle alone, if they did that and there was no dog, he probably would have just had to kill him.
I mean, I can certainly sympathize with someone killing my dog and then me going on a 3-movie long murder spree over it.
The second movie wasn't about the dog at all. The first movie was fully about the dog. The second movie was about the consequences of him doing what he did for the dog.
Well, because he got doing what he did for everything. Period. That was his wife's memory. So it really wasn't. It was everything was linked to his dead wife, and they keep cutting back to that. Pictures of her and him, memories of her and him. He had a video on the phone of her and him. So that is intricately woven into the storyline as a message that this runs deeper than just about the car or just about the dog. It's the memory of his dead wife that he had done all of that for in the beginning.
You still on the first one.
Okay, so the bottom line is that even when you get into the second one, after doing all of that, he finally bought his way out for her, and now because he went through all of that and killed everybody involved who was involved with that situation, now the people who he was in the life with before are coming knocking.
Because they see that as him reactivating his badge.
Right.
So now they're saying you reactivated your badge. There, you cannot go back. You're back. And then and then it goes into the story of the second movie. So the second movie is not about a dog.
Right.
First movie is not necessarily about a dog, but the dog was the trigger. And then the third movie is about the consequences. So each movie, it gets worse because each time he has to pay the consequences of what he's done.
Right. The more he fights it, the more consequences he accumulates, the worse it gets. Because the more he kills, the more people get pissed off that he keeps killing people.
Exactly.
And if they would just stop trying to kill him, he would kill nobody.
So in the third one, the problem is that the guy, you know that there's a rule or there's a law. They have places, the hotels are like holy ground.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot conduct business at the hotels. Where this is the Continentals, but they have different ones. Like they have one in Morocco and one here in the States, and they have one in other cities, and you can't conduct business. All of this is run by the high table, and you cannot conduct business on those grounds. So even though John Wick knows this, the person that dragged him back into the life, because he wasn't all the way back, even though he said, "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back" in the first one. He wasn't really. His intent was, "Okay, I'm good now. I'm done. I killed him and it's over." But then this
Right.
guy says, "You have a blood bond debt. Now you got to pay that debt." So now he's back into this thing, and he's had to do all of this for this guy, and then the guy tries to have him killed. So John Wick is like, "Oh, you got me messed up."
So no,
So
that's not. You got to explain it right. What happened is the guy,
explain it right.
the guy had him. He activated the blood bond that they made because he owed them, and he said, "I'm activating it for you to kill my sister." And then he planned. He planned to activate it for him to kill his sister, and then he
To get
planned
him a seat on the high table.
and then he planned to have him killed afterwards.
Right.
So he activated for him the bond to kill his sister, and then immediately put out
A hit.
a hit on him.
Mhm.
Now he's a member of the high table. This guy. So first of all, he's off limits because he's a member of the high table. So second of all, he after all of this,
Nowhere in the story does it say anyone at the high table was off limits.
Yeah, they are.
When did they say
Yeah,
that?
he talks about that. He's on the high table. Are you crazy? You got to rewatch that.
I think it's unwritten because nowhere do they say that you can't do it. It's they don't advise that you do it.
That's
but
why the high table
was
after killing him, not only because of the Continental, but because he killed a member of the high table.
The high table was after him for.
Just rewatch the second one before we debate this.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch it myself too because it was a lot of conversation that I
stated in there. You kill a member of the high table, you're dead, man.
I just don't like the assumptions without proof. I don't like assumptions from perception without proof. Like unspoken things, yes, but things along those lines, it's a little bit. So I do have to rewatch it. So when we watch these movies and then we say, "Oh, you can't do this and you can't do that," I have to know specifically where scene you're talking about and where you're coming from. Especially if I don't agree and I didn't get that same perception, you have to show me what I missed.
Okay, so anyway, duly noted. That's the impression I got because I heard it said in there, "You kill a member of the high table, you're dead, man," or something of that nature. So that was stated in there that you kill a member of the high table, you're signing your own death warrant. And then on top of that, he did it on continental grounds because the guy thought he got away fighting, good and clear. He ended up at the Continental. He's in the hotel, and John Wick is standing in front of him and in front of this guy who's the manager who has had his back all this time. And John Wick made a decision. He said, "John, don't do it." He made a decision. He's like, "Nope, I got to do it." And he killed him. So now we've got a man that is, what's the word?
Well, he kind of had to kill him because he put a hit out on him. So either he was going to get killed eventually, or because everybody was gunning for him. It was a very high level. It was like was it in the trillion?
But so now everybody's still gunning for him.
I mean,
so it didn't really accomplish
I don't care. I mean,
revenge. I mean,
but if I'm gonna die, you gonna die too.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go. Whatever the reason may be, but that is why he is incommunicado at this point.
I think the smart thing is
he did that on hotel ground. Now he was gonna have a hit put out on him anyway by the high table for killing someone that's a member of the high table, but because he did it on continental grounds, now he's incommunicado. That means he's not only killing on the high table, he don't have no services, no help. Those gold coins that buy everything, the cleaners and all of that kind of stuff, how they conduct business, off limits. He was completely on his own. That's what that meant.
I think that it would have been smarter. I think if John Wick thought more like a boss and less like a killer, because he tried to kill his way out of his problems. If he thought more like a boss and less like a killer, then he would have went to the high table himself the moment that dude put a hit out on him.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have made it. He may not have made it to the high table. That was the problem.
He made it everywhere else.
Yeah, but he took a
write in the script for him to fight his way to the high table, but you could write in the script for him to fight his way to everything else.
So the time for him to have killed this man would have been before he was a member of the high table. You missed that window.
He couldn't do that. He could not kill him. He had a marker.
Because he had a marker on him.
So if you cannot kill the person that holds your marker. He would have been excommunicado anyway.
Yeah, if I'm gonna break the rules, I was just gonna do that.
But nobody will know that they got your marker if you kill them and you take the marker.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say they tracked that because nothing in the movie suggested. But Zach,
Exactly.
that's pretty much what that movie consists of.
Okay.
And
I mean,
listen,
it seems a little bit silly for you to say that. Oh, you can't kill someone that's got your marker. When I mean, like, killing somebody's already illegal. What's saying this mafia marker is going to do
Well,
anything?
within their world, they have a whole other world outside of our world. So within their world, it's a rule for them that you cannot kill someone who holds your marker. There are certain
Right.
honor codes that they have to go by.
okay, which is amazing to me because it's just like saying the honor among thieves. A
Right.
thief is still gonna steal, so a killer's still gonna
Well,
kill,
a thief
which
and
is
a thief
hilarious.
and a killer are two separate things and two separate. Okay, a thief you cannot trust because they will take things from you and they will lie to you. A killer is just someone who has the skills to kill and who has killed before. That does not mean that they cannot trustworthy. It does not mean that they'll steal something from you. It just means they have the skills to kill and have killed.
Well, did you have the killer in the first
Mm,
movie though? She said, "Hey, that's a lot of money. I'm willing to break the rules for that." It just depends on what they're willing to risk.
I mean, just to take a killer and put them. I don't like things in the wrong box. To take a killer and to put it in the same box as a thief is not because it's not the same thing.
okay, but let
I
me.
could I could have my code as a killer and think I will never steal from someone. I will never take something from someone that they earned. But I will kill someone if they touch me the wrong way. That doesn't mean so because I would kill someone because they'll touch me the wrong way does not mean that you can logically jump to me stealing something.
Okay, so now that we've summarized all of this for Zach, can I give my version of how I felt about three, or were you not done? Because
We
we did
already
a dare, and
we
then you did
already
you.
I didn't give my version about how I felt about it. I was countering things that you guys were saying. We already gave our things about how we felt in the last
No, we
episode.
didn't, because we didn't cover three. Remember, you
Yeah,
said we don't touch it.
we did cover three, didn't we?
Dare didn't we say we couldn't do it because you hadn't seen it yet?
Right, I think
Oh,
that is how we
okay.
left it.
Okay.
You can go first.
I'm done.
Okay, you sure?
We gotta keep.
So my vision of three, what I expected, I did expect the body count. So that was awesome to see the killing. I did not expect Holly Berry though. So I was very
Hmm.
excited not only to see her and the new element of bringing in the dogs.
Whoop
Again,
whoop.
you have the dog in the first one that was the victim. So it only made made it a perfect sense of irony that in this one you have dogs who are also attackers. And who are on the side of right and protecting and harming too. So Halle Berry has these dogs, and she's like a master dog trainer, and she has them equipped in Kevlar. Okay, this is amazing to me that these dogs are active part of the action, pulling people to them so that they can shoot them in the head. I just thought that that was so cool. Like they weren't necessarily the lethal cause of how these people died, but they brought the bad people to the killers and aided in making sure that John Wick and Halle Berry got out of there okay. And again, they revisited the situation where in this instance, the man that they sought counsel from, or John Wick did, looked at Sophia and told her, "Give me your dog." That's Halle Berry's character. "Give me your dog." And she's like, "You can't have my dog." And he said, "Okay, well then I'll kill it." And he shot her dog. So now you are again at that place where this man just shot a dog. Like in the first one. Only in this one, the dog didn't die because he had on a Kevlar vest, right? But she was so pissed off that she's like, "He shot my dog." John Wick goes from the killer of everybody to the council and says, "Don't do it." So it's amazing how you have him flipping roles in this instance. Now it's about a dog again, but more than we know it's more than. But for Holly Berry, that's all it's about. He shot my dog. While for him it was so much more. And he's standing here saying, "Don't do it." So the irony, I love it how they keep bringing that back around into the series. And then you have again Lawrence Fishburne's character, of the king of the slums. What do they call him? The
The
what king?
Bowery.
The Bowery. The Bowery, which is an
You
interesting
pissed
word.
off, John.
Okay,
I,
wait. I loved also. Let me. I want to interrupt real quick. I loved how they tied in what John Wick did for his wife with Halle Berry's character. Because I was like, how if she don't owe you nothing, how does she gonna help you? And then you find that part out. And I kind of dug how they brought that in because we don't know how many other markers he's got out there on other people.
True. Very true. So this ends in the situation where, as Lupe said, now you've got the guy who's had John Wick's back from the very beginning, saying that no, I'm not going to step down because this adjudicator. Personally, the adjudicator pissed me off the whole movie. I was waiting for somebody to pull a bullet in her face. I
Oh
was
my
just ready for it.
gosh, me too.
I was ready for it.
She annoys me. High table. We don't care.
She was
You're
just
not the
so
high
ugly.
table.
This
You're not at the high table. You don't sit at the high table.
this
All you is a voice for the high table.
this
That's
is what I didn't understand
She's
is
so ugly.
when she pulled her phone out and she called in and said, we're gonna deconsecrate the Intercontinental. As soon as she hung up, she would have caught a bullet.
no. She would have caught a bullet the moment
Before
she
she
walked
made the
in.
phone call.
Right.
When I said no, it should have been very well. Phone, bullet. There you
So
go.
I do want to know what the consequences are of killing the adjudicator.
I don't know, but they got to be steep for them not to have killed her because they didn't touch her the whole movie.
What do you think, Zach? If the whole movie she was pissing everybody off, and she's pissing murderers, killers, and assassins off, but she didn't get touched. What do you think they got?
You got the idea of who the adjudicator is, right? She's like a judge and jury sent in not only after John Wick breaking the rules, but feel like anybody who assisted him. Because again, I personally feel that, but Lupe wants the verification, and I get that this was a consequence, not just because he broke the rules, but because he killed a member of the high table. Now, that's my take on it.
I mean, the adjudicator just kind of sounds like what John Wick's position would have been officially if he was still like within the in group of the underground world. Like I figured that would kind of be his role if he was actually still in that underground organization instead of fighting against them.
Well, see, the adjudicator does not kill anyone.
No,
she tells people what to do. She tells people who to kill and how to kill.
And they say, I will serve or I will be of service. Mark DeCoscos, very interesting casting in the bad guy.
Yeah,
you know,
but I love
a
him.
lot of action.
Wait.
Yeah.
Out of all the people in the story, you're calling him a bad guy?
Mark DeCoscos?
Yeah, well, because he's typically been a good guy in a whole lot of movies.
He wasn't necessarily a bad guy. He was just in opposition to the person that we were rooting for. Just because someone is in opposition to who we're rooting for does not make them the bad guy.
It makes him the antagonist, which in every storyline is the bad guy.
The antagonist does not equal the bad guy to me.
Okay, to you.
It doesn't necessarily have to be. I don't know if any of you guys do any manga or anime, but in Death Note, technically you're following the antagonist the whole time, and the main character is the antagonist, and the protagonist is the person he's fighting against.
Okay.
It is just an example of a story where the antagonist is the main character, so technically you're following the bad guy from the get-go.
John
but
Wick
you just said he's the bad guy. That was the description.
By other people's logic, that would make John Wick the bad guy as well.
He is. He's Baba Yaga. That's the.
I would make him an anti-hero. I don't see him as the bad guy. I see him as the
anti-hero.
But he is.
No, he's not.
I would see him as an anti-hero.
He's like Spawn.
He's avenging the death of his dog. Through bloody bodies and killing and murder. That's not even anti-hero.
But even then, he tried to get out of it. All he wanted was the guy. And that's in the first one. That's all he wanted. Just give me your son. I don't want to kill nobody else. Give me your son and I'm good.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't make him a hero. What about...
Wait.
Makes him a hero.
Can we agree?
Anti-hero.
Can we agree that the viewer picks the hero in their own mind and move on?
Sure. Okay.
I'm finishing up my version of 3. I think that 3 was excellent in that it created that situation because it was unexpected. If they were going for an unexpected ending, I did not expect John Wick to get shot off a building. I didn't see that coming. Honestly, I didn't. I saw that he was possibly going to be sold out. I felt like that might possibly happen. But believe it or not, I felt like it would come from the concierge, not the manager himself. But it ended up being the manager. And I was like, okay, well, that's better anyway, because I really like the concierge. Concierge said, well played, sir. Like, what can you say?
But even with that, that's what lets me know that that the manager was playing the game. He was put, even though we know, okay, yeah, John Wick fell off of a building, but it was the position of where he was when he got shot and where he ran to, which upped his chances. Now, if I fell off that building, I'm sure I would have died on the first thing I hit. But this is a movie, so we know that John Wick, with all his willpower, the boogeyman, is going to survive some extraordinary things. So it only shows logic that he realized that, one, I didn't kill the manager and I could have killed him. I told him, I got you. Basically, I got your back. So he's not gonna kill me, but he gonna put up the front that he's not with me, that now he's gonna be in service to them. So I gotta make it look good. So I'm gonna jump off this building and hopefully I make it to the ground. Now, luckily, the adjudicator people couldn't get down there and get him, and the Bowery man picked him up because I thought Larry Fishburne was done for. So
I did
that
too.
surprised me. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because they said death by. I think I don't know if they
The
said
penalty was a
death
seven
by,
cuts.
but it said seven cuts, but it didn't, I don't think they said death by.
Nope.
So when it got to the end, and I was like, oh, they did, because I've heard the term death by 1,000 cuts, but I was like, what is the seven cut thing? That threw me. So I was a little surprised by that. But when the concierge said, well played, that let me know, okay, it's something else going on, and they're trying to make some sort of play, and they need John Wick to have survived.
Well, we shall see. In 20, when, Mickey? When did you say the next one coming
Man,
out?
they gonna make me wait to 2021. I was disgusted.
But I mean,
Disgusted.
you got to think about exactly what next level, like this is one of the few movie chains where there have been three of them where they've gotten better and better in each movie. Like,
Nothing like the Matrix.
Yeah, hey now, the second one was pretty bad, but them's fighting words.
I mean, but it's like okay, how many Fast and Furious movies were there, and how many of them were trash?
All of them
Okay,
and
oh,
all of
okay, okay. Hey, now, no, no, that's fighting words right there.
I'm just
Fast and
saying.
Furious movies are not made for good storytelling. They're made for things blowing up and exciting, fast fighting scenes and fast cars.
Okay,
That's all they're
Tokyo
for.
Tokyo Drift was pretty lame. Give me a break. The Hulk
Okay,
one,
Tokyo
come on.
Drift. No, Tokyo Drift did not happen. They don't even talk about Tokyo Drift. We don't talk about that, okay?
But
But
Bow would be insulted.
But if you watch,
He needs
if
to
you
be.
watch all of the movies, if you watch all of the movies, Tokyo Drift actually did help connect a lot of it. It was
It
like a
did.
connector movie.
It
Mickey had
had
to
a
tell me that it happened out
connection.
of order. That's how
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know.
yeah. Because the one when they were in with the bank vaults, I forget what country they were supposed to be in. That actually happened after. Was it no before? Should have happened before Tokyo Drift or something like that. No, would have yeah, would have happened before Tokyo Drift.
Well, see, what I'll do is I will I'll write down a list for you of which order they should be watched in. Watch them in that order, and you'll see it a totally different way.
Okay, so moving
Yeah,
on.
but it was still terrible because the little boy wasn't even in the
It's
movie
too terrible.
no more. The only connection was the Asian guy in Statham. Everything else was garbage. They didn't even need that movie. They could have just had the Asian guy like run over somebody that Statham knew or something. Like, that movie was unnecessary.
Hey, now I am looking forward to Hobbs and what's that movie coming out?
So
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go
yeah,
watch it. Don't
oh
get me
yeah,
wrong.
that actually looks when they got the Rock, Statham, and Idris
Oh yeah,
Elba? Oh,
in the
Idris
same
Elba.
movie, they had to have some pullers, some good writers. I don't care how upset
they
Therese
better.
gets. Is that his name?
Tyrese.
Tyrese,
Tyrese. I don't care how upset Tyrese
Baby
gets
boy.
his
about it.
character is
Facts
unnecessary.
is he's not that good of an actor anyway.
He's okay.
He's not that good of an actor anyway,
I
and
like
he
the man.
knows it. And he's upset about them doing a movie without everybody in it. He's more upset that he's not making money because he felt like we built a family here where we all make money. And it's like, okay, they're creating a story that's going to connect to your story and then build the hype and make you more money. But all you see is a movie that you're not in.
I like Tyrese in the Autobots movie, and
Okay, okay. So we're gonna
Give it a
move on
break. Give it a
to
break.
movies. Oh, we still gotta do a Dare Starship Troopers.
Okay, okay. I think initially we were saying the book, which I read the book and I saw the movie, and I did that out of order. I saw the movie first because I had never heard of Starship Troopers. Saw the movie, and though it was a crazily put together type movie, I
Yeah.
dug it. It was like it was something I hadn't seen before, so I kind of dug it. That made me go back and read the book. So I know Lupe didn't per se want to watch it. I still say you should watch it. Don't watch it with like the critical eye of great story writing, but just
Wait. This comes after you just criticized Fast and the
No.
Furious.
well,
What?
They
I mean,
forgot what's his name from How I Met Your Mother in there. Uh,
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he's
yeah,
in
it's
there.
got your boy
I
in
love
there.
Neil Patrick Harris.
He's in there.
And you'll like him in there. He's an interesting character.
Hmm.
But basically, the I don't know. Have you seen this, my man Vic or Zachary? Sorry, I
Yeah,
won't say your name.
I've seen Starship
Okay,
Troopers.
okay. So you're familiar with it. Lupe, I don't think she's actually watched it all the
Yeah,
way through, or she's maybe seen bits and
she
pieces.
was a
So
youngin' when it came
I
out.
don't even know
Right.
what it's about. I'm gonna be real
okay,
honest.
so
What?
basically, where the movie starts is um there's a couple of characters, Rico, Dizzy, I forget the pilot girl's name, and then there's Neil Patrick Harris character. So they're buddies at school, and they're in the society that they live in. They have to either just stay a civilian, and you can accumulate wealth or whatever, but you can't procreate. Okay, or you join the military and serve, and then if you survive whatever your service is, then you're allowed to procreate. Crazy society. Anyway, so what happens is Rico goes, he actually goes into the military following a woman. So it's a love thing for him. He's had a crush on his girlfriend all this time. Meanwhile, Dizzy has a crush on him, who is like his
Best friend.
she's like a best friend, but she's had this crush on him all life. So anyway, they go into the military. Rico almost washes out, but before he actually goes all the way home, asteroid hits his hometown, and of course in this society we're already in space travel, so we're traversing the stars. They find out that it's from this race of creatures called, they call them the bugs, and so it's these giant insects who are launching using plasma bolts to launch meteors towards Earth. So they go off to fight the bugs. That's the basic premise of it, and through the process,
And their goal is to kill the queen.
well, they don't know that there's a queen at the time. There's there becomes speculation as the battle goes forward, because as always, humans think we're so intelligent, nothing's more intelligent than us. We go and we start an offensive, and we get our for lack of better words, we get our asses handed to us. And then they realize, hey, something's not right here. There's got to be something that we're missing. So then the theory comes out that there's a queen, or some bigger mind bug that they have to find. And so
I have
we
intelligence.
right. And so eventually they figure all that part out, and then at the end of the movie they capture one, and they sort of win the war at the end of this particular movie. Um but it's a crazy movie because it has a lot of scenes in it that are, I guess, I would kind of say equivalent to Saving Private Ryan, as far as the gore, the battlefield gore, the
Excuse me.
bloodiness, the devastation of your troops, and all of that kind of stuff. But then it has the comical side to it with the interspersed media, which is basically the uh,
Propaganda machine.
thank you, the propaganda machine. And so that's why I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, it was different. Like, and anybody, well, not everybody, my wife can tell you I don't like a whole lot of bugs anyway. Like, I don't even like eating at restaurants outdoors a lot because I don't want anything flying over my plate. So and what was cool to me is they didn't use spiders, and that's one of my biggest ones. And so I was like, oh, this is a different take on the whole bug
Bug
thing, and
situation.
I
and
really don't like any movies involving bugs or aliens very much.
I have to say shout out
Um,
to Michael Ironside in this.
Yeah,
Michael Ironside was one of the best characters in this
right.
movie.
That dude has played some of the most awesome roles
Hmm.
that I've ever seen in characters, even in the original V series that I thought he played an excellent guy. He got on my nerves in it, but I understood his vantage point. So yeah, I still think it was a good movie. I don't know. What's your take on it, Mister Zach?
Um, to summarize it in 2 words, it is fascist propaganda. The whole movie.
Yep.
The
Yeah,
entire
pretty much.
movie is just making fascism look as sexy as possible, and they do a really good job of it.
Yep,
I mean, it
that's
is.
exactly it.
Yeah. Just
Yep.
if you haven't seen the movie, go back and see it, and just think to yourself every scene. All right, does this scene favor a military state positively or negatively? And every single time you'll be like, oh, it's positively affecting a military state. Even
Yep.
when they realize that there's a brain bug and they capture the brain bug, and like the brain bug seems intelligent, and it seems like you can get a feeling of like you get a sense of like the brain bug has like emotions, it has feelings, and it because it's obviously intelligent, it can coordinate all these different bugs together and all that. It can understand language to a kind of a degree. Granted, it does it by basically eating the brains of humans, but like you could create a peaceful kind of society with that kind of thing. But they're like, nah, just kill it. They want it to be afraid. They're trying to install fear in their enemies, kind of thing. They're not looking for peace. They're just looking for endless conflict. Even when
Hmm.
peace can be easily achieved, they just have to grab it, but they choose not to. They just keep wanting to go to war. And like at the very beginning, it sets it up a lot with like it's been a minute since I've seen it, but like I remember there was like one scene in particular where the kid was like, "Well, I want to go to college," or the parents are like, "You're gonna go to college. We got you set up. You're gonna go to Harvard." He's like, "No, I want to fight in the military because I don't know reasons." And it's
Something stupid.
yeah, yeah, and so it's just watching that kid and his friends all go to war for the sake of the state and for whatever other reason they come up with.
Yeah, and the uniforms did not
Yeah, they
imitate
were.
Nazism at all.
Yeah, they were not being too subtle about that part.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a fun movie to watch. Hey,
Yeah.
it is. It's a good movie. I'm not gonna decry it for being back,
Entertainment value.
but yeah,
Right.
that's kind of the whole exercise of the movie is like how easy is it to make this kind of look appealing to everybody else? It's scarily pretty easy.
Yeah.
It,
Yep.
it was extremely easy for everybody to fall for the okie doke. And, and,
Yeah,
and, and they did quite a bit. And I can't imagine ever being okay with my child going off to such a violent war. And the fact that there were, no real protesters of that kind of thing,
yeah,
and what would have happened to those who did protest, you kind of wonder,
yeah.
what kind of freedom of choice was involved in this whole process. But they were so effective with the propaganda
Right.
that wasn't really even a question.
And like with all the propaganda they were doing for the whole movie, like you never even see like they keep showing screens as like transitions from one scene to another, but you never see a single transition screen from like where the protesters against the war. There is
Right.
none. They never show any in any of the propaganda pieces that fly up as a scene transition.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Now
there's
here's
That
the
alone is disturbing.
here's the funny part. They've made like four additional movies plus a spin-off CGI series, which I've watched. I think I've watched all of them.
jeez.
Just because I wanted to see. I always wanted to see, well, what happens. I'm sure that the bugs had more than just that one planet. So I was like, okay, because apparently they figured out space travel as well. So what else
Right.
was going on? So it made me want to. Plus, in the book, so here's the thing that irritated me after I saw the movie and then read the book was, well, Dizzy wasn't a woman in the book; she was a guy. And that whole love thing with him and the pilot girl wasn't even a part of the book. So they just threw that whole love interest thing in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that
Action
was
in there.
unnecessary. And then they didn't introduce I forget their names, but there's a methane breathing alien race who are the ones who actually gave the bugs the ability to go into space. They manipulated the bugs' genetics, and that's what started everything. So
Ah,
originally, the battle wasn't against the original bugs; it was against the methane breathing race. But because the bugs, their intelligence compounded or exponentially, then they attacked even the methane breathing race, and so the methane breathing race joined with the human race in order to figure out a way to exterminate the bugs. So again, it
got it.
just amplified the fascist propaganda between three different races.
Ah,
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, I
So
didn't even
all
know
in
they made
all, would you say
also
the book was
multiple
better or
movies.
the movie, Adair?
I think the book was better, of course, because it gave you more information. It told you about more of the story, and I think from what I saw, so when they did the CGI versions, you got more of the realism that you didn't see in the first movie. So there were things like their armor and stuff was mechanized, giving them they had the jump troopers and stuff like that with the jetpacks and all that kind of stuff. They didn't have that in the movie, and so I was glad that I didn't see the the original movie after reading the book, but I saw it in the I watched I did it out of order because I would have been mad.
Ah, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. We got about 20 more minutes. I'm gonna try to run through mines pretty quickly. So this second half of the show, what we're gonna do is we're gonna discuss. All of us here are pretty much writers or dreamers or people that create our own world. And so what I wanted to do is read something off of my blog describing what it's like to live in your own world, to live in a bubble, and then going into how we take what we have in our heads and putting it on paper or building something, writing D&D, writing books, writing a script, and things along those lines. So just give me a quick second. I'm going to share this screen so you all can see what I'm looking at.
Oh,
All right, infinite screens. Oh,
All right, you guys see it?
yep.
Okay, I want to go with a full screen. I used to know how to do a full screen. It's been a long time. Don't judge me. But it's so fun. Let's reload. All right, 2 seconds. I'm about to say F it. Can you guys see it well enough to see the picture? Good. Okay,
yeah.
cool. All right. So I'm gonna scroll and read as I scroll. And starting off with the top, it says, up until 3 years ago, I was a voluntary prisoner here in Loopy Land. Loopy Land is what I call the inside of my head. the breakout, the breakout changed everything. It's so hard to explain. It's like sleepwalking, like existing without living, like you imprisoned yourself inside your own mind, isolated from everyone. Now, I'm not good reading off like acting reading, so just deal with it. Anyway, so ignorant and oblivious to the world outside of you. Imagine going years living through books or stories that you can create inside your mind, a sort of self induced coma. Then one day you decide that you like to wake up. You decide that you want to build real connections outside of the fantasy world that you've constructed. It's like turning on a radio with the volume already on high. I had been living in my own mind for so long that I didn't even really feel anything outside of Loopy Land. Scroll, look at the pictures, look at the pictures. Look at it.
Oh, goofy.
As I took myself out of my comfort zone, I became more aware of the world around me. I witnessed something special that everyone else had. It was like they were possessed with fire and passion. I wanted that fire. I wanted that passion. I wanted to feel something real. So I went out and got me some real feels.
Some real feel.
When I got my first dose of real feelings, all I wanted to do was not feel, but still feel at the same time. I know, it makes no sense, but I finally felt something real. It was just so overwhelming. Here comes the sigh. Breaths. And then moving on, it was like a straight punch to the head, chest, and pride. Look at that. Do you see that picture?
Looks pretty
Head,
painful.
chest, and pride. It hits you 10 times harder than the fictional feelings that you're used to. How do you adapt to that? How do you not crawl back into your shell when you put yourself out there, when you try to connect with others only to be dismissed, scrutinized, or used? How do you keep putting yourself out there for others to try to, excuse me, Mama Tay, fuck over? Well, it's surprisingly very easy. Just as it hurts 10 times more than you're used to, you also feel 10 times more in general. Excitement, happiness, sadness, and anger. It doesn't really matter what you feel as long as you're feeling. It's like a drug that you can't get enough of. Look at the picture. All the feels. All the feels.
You take a drink.
Is that
Oh,
a hot?
yeah.
Is that a hot arrow?
It would feel so much safer to go back into isolation, but I can't. I can't go back to dull and fake feelings compared to the real thing. It's like being numb. I'm still me, loopy with my crazy, but I won't go back to the quiet, dull, and numb. I take the overwhelming reality that is the world around me before I imprison myself again. And then we have me boxing. I can't do that for real. My boobs are too big.
Da-da-da,
Wow, really, really,
da-da-da,
really.
And then we
da-da.
have that perseverance, and then the loopy thing. And then P.S. Big thanks to Bitmoji for helping me out with this. Thank you, Big Moji. Excuse me. I'm going to stop sharing this now, but if you're watching this, if we have anyone watching this, I have more of this at thatloopychick.wordpress.com because I'm that loopy chick.
Yes.
And back to and why does all of this matter when it comes to building your own world? All of this matters because I feel like in some ways you can get stuck in your own world and not come out, and then you don't end up sharing a world that you want to, and you keep it to yourself, and that's fine. But then there's something in people that are creative that want to share the world that they build in some way. That's why we have movies. That's why we have books. That's why we have music. To me, it's all building your own world. And I'm learning to build my own world outside of my head. And I haven't gotten it there yet, but I'm still going in that way. But to the people who have
Successfully.
that word.
That works.
Thank you guys. Built their built their worlds outside of their heads. Let's hear from you guys and what you guys have done, starting with who wants to go first.
Adair, why don't you go with specifically with concentric relations and kind of and unknown ties and how that process worked out?
Okay, he go with what he
Okay, you go with what you want with,
It's
but
it's
that's
all good. It's all good. I was just imagining sucker punch as you were reading that thing about being caught up in your head. But anyway, okay. Well, okay. So for me, in let me just for those who don't know, I am a newly released author with Middle
yes.
Creations Publishing, and my first novel being released is Concentric Relations: Unknown Ties, and it is a science fiction technology novel. And so for me, what I in writing my stories, what I did was, as any writer will tell you, a lot of the stuff that you write about is some way is influenced by things you've seen, or some things you've read, or even conversations you've had with people from time to time. And so, in my case, initially it started all with a dream called "Think About Living in Your Head." So I had a really strange dream one day about being underwater, surrounded by, I guess you would call it kelp or seaweed. And it was strange to me because I could see clearly that it was, you know, long tentacles of seaweed or something. And then off in the distance, I could see light. So it was like the water was crystal clear, but there was something hiding in the seaweed that was dangerous, that was menacing. And so that was the initial start of my writing, because I wrote it down because I was like, this is weird. And as most people know, if when you dream, you don't always remember a lot of details from dreams. So when you do have what we call a lucid dream, it's good to write these things down because they're great. There could be great plot points for anyone who's a writer. Um, and so that started my novel. I kind of was wondering what how did I get to this point is where the writing started. It was like this is where I am. This is the dream that I remember. What could lead up to this point? And so I went back, and I'm a big um, 1945 Roswell crash buff. Like I read all the UFO stuff, and I'm always interested. I've seen weird things in my lifetime that made me go, was that a UFO or was that just a shooting star? And so I just drew on all of those things. I'm a big sci-fi lover for years. I go back to movies like Forbidden Planet old. Battle Beyond the Stars old. For those who don't know what these movies are, look them up. They're really old sci-fi movies. And so for me, it just made me kind of, you know, draw upon all those things. And so I said, in leading up to this point, how did I get here? What could have occurred? And even though it's set sort of in the present day, maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, it's also kind of futuristic in regards to some of the levels of technology. And I'm also one of those people that believe I wouldn't say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I would say I do believe that what we have access to is not the latest in technology.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the computers that we're using, the stuff that the military complex has is like 20, 30 years, 40 years more advanced than what we have. So the stuff that people are doing right now and they think they're doing something really great, no, you're behind the times, buddy. You will never catch up. And so that kind of built into my I played all of that played into how I built on the story, the building of the technology base, the global satellite system within the novel. If you haven't read the novel, you need to go get your copy. Concentric Relations, Unknown Ties. Check it out.
Yes. Check it out.
And so again, I'm big on the alien thing, so I'm always curious as to what form life could take outside of Earth, and how would an alien race interact with Earth? You could always have the benevolent ET type or um, um, the Asgardian type from say Stargate, but then you could also have the vicious, bug type from say Starship Troopers that we were just talking about. And so, but what I wanted to also do is not to have just a malevolent force without any direction. Like they had to have a bigger plan that is kind of hinted at, but you don't know enough detail, so you're always wondering, okay, what's gonna happen next? And so that's kind of how I built the concentric relations world or universe.
Pretty cool.
Hopefully,
All right.
And I like to expound on that a little bit. So I'm also an author. I have the Brainwaver series, the Valley series, and I'm currently working on under a different pseudonym, C. Marie Evans, the Hater's Prayer, and Annie B's Legacy series. And I can honestly say that the world building, I learned a lot from another author, Ilona Andrews. Her and her husband Gordon write books together. They're very good at world building, and it always starts with the question of what if. I think any good world building takes place from a what if perspective. If you're looking at a current situation or something that turns into a possible situation or something that you see that's interesting and you want to expound on that or go to the extreme. And Loopy can tell you I am a person who loves extremes. I am the extreme, whether it comes to emotion, whether it comes to athletics, sports. I am the extreme. And I'm always the person that loves to think the opposite of what the mainstream thinks. I'm that big person, like, let's take Game of Thrones, because everybody fell in love with Game of Thrones. Zach, I was that person that was like, I'm not going to watch it.
I mean, hey, to each their own. I mean, the ending wound up being pretty garbage anyway. I mean, I thought of a better ending of Game of Thrones than Game of Thrones writers apparently did, so it's whatever.
Now, I did end up watching because Darren was like, you really need to watch it. And I think that it's good. It's a good thing for any writer to watch how another author world builds, because it's especially but the character development that went into all of the preceding seasons. You're right, that ending was just really
Again,
Yeah.
that was because I told you that the author did not. They were ahead of his series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because they were ahead of his series, they didn't have his story to pull from anymore, and then it went to a shit show.
Now,
Okay.
to be fair, I have to sit in here and defend this real quick. I think part of the reason why everybody has such a bad reaction to the end of Game of Thrones, it's a thing I've seen in a bunch of different series. Is the better the series was leading up to the ending, the worse the ending will often feel.
Yeah.
Especially if it has a concrete ending. Like nobody was ever going to be satisfied because everything so amazing happened all the way up to the end point. There's no way you can actually wrap everything up in a way that'll satisfy all the people all the time.
I agree.
Good.
I agree. And honestly, I think, like I said, because Loopy said that, you have the original author not being in on that end, you don't really have his take on how those characters ended up. So it's like you're winging it.
I
You
mean,
know,
it was
so
consulting on it, but he didn't actually have any definitive say one way or the other.
really, he didn't. I thought that he was really instrumental
In the beginning, he was.
in the beginning, right?
Yeah, and then at
But
the end, because they were going faster than those books, he was just more of a consultant along the last couple of seasons, I believe.
okay,
He
And
probably threw him a
he
little.
has come out and said that his books will not end like the movies.
Right. He was like, I told them some garbage so that I can sell more books.
No, what he
There you
really
go.
did is like I told them the actual ending, but then seeing the reaction from everybody, I'm going to change everything in the books completely.
Right.
I was using them as guinea pigs.
Yeah, right. That would have been a good one. So in any instance, when you're dealing with world building, you're dealing with that what if question and the extremes of that what if, and that's where I started with Brainwaver. What if there was a way for you to do whatever you want to do with whether you want to lose weight, you want to run faster, and like Adair said, the technology being so much more advanced than we thought. What if they've been all these years forming a technology, some type of chip or something that actually is interwoven into the brain and connects to the passages in your brain to create the reactions that you want. If you want your skin to clear, then it creates the physical manifestations of what you need for clearer skin. Your pores, getting the dirt out of your pores, some kind of self-cleaning system, things like that. And then the end result being exactly what you wanted. And you can control all of that from the cell phone. But what they don't tell you is they can also control you with it. So that's the premise of the book. That's that what if. What if is an extremely extreme what if, and then that world that you builds around that question of what if. And so your characters take shape at that point, and your plots take shape at that point, and then your heroes and your antagonists, along with their protagonists being who they're supporting, their supporters, the comedic cast of it. Like there's always a clown in there, somebody who is the humor or the relief, in the very tense situations. And then you've got, all of these mirror moments. Like, are you going to learn and live, or are you going to die? What's going to happen in this book? What's the suspense? Is there any suspense? All of those things are birthed in the world building process. So as you go along, Luby would tell you that I was in the beginning a seat of your pants writer. And that means that the characters actually were people in my head, and they just wrote themselves, and I followed. And I was like, oh, so it's like that, huh? Like, when I started writing the first book in the Brainwaver series, Wavering Minds, Celine was supposed to be this kind of shy and just kind of this shy person who just kind of liked her life the way it was and didn't want to change and was very comfortable with where she was at. Well, she did like her life the way it was. She was comfortable with where she was, and she didn't like change, but she was far from shy. Apparently, she did not like the idea of being written that way. And she basically let me know, that's not me. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. That's not me. And the next thing you know, there's a character birthed in her head, and he's called the little editor. And apparently his job is to keep her from saying all the stuff she wants to say.
He's
But she's a
hilarious.
little crazy. so you've got this character who writes herself into being like this humongous goof. She's like hilarious. with this OCD issue with her rug. I'm like, what is it with you and this rug? And it was fun. It was an enjoyable process allowing her to be her. But I learned that if I just allowed the characters to write themselves, I could end up willy-nilly in a plot that I didn't want to be in. So now I have an agreement in my world building process. I have an agreement with the characters since I am character driven. I'm a character driven author. I'm not plot driven, I'm character driven. So, along with a lot of the character development before the book, me learning the characters, now I learn them first before I write them down. I let them take shape first. So now I've also improved the process. I say, okay, get me to this point. You can do whatever you want to do to get me here, but we've got to advance the story so I don't get caught with a lot of scenes that I end up in the book graveyard that I can't use because they don't advance the story. I mean, there are a lot of fun things that you can read, but if they don't advance the story, it was just a kind of a waste of your time, you know? So that kind of thing. So world building is an exciting process. And like Luby said, you got to be careful because you want to just kind of stay there. My problem is that I have several different worlds in my head now. So even though I'm working on the Hater's Prayer, my head is already on Brainwaver 3 because I just learned about, or I just watched a little info series on the what they were called the Night Wolves or something like that. They were a motorcycle gang in Russia that the Russian government has kind of been using as its unofficial arm of the government. It's kind of, and it's been in place, you know, that's kind of trying to paint Putin as a hero instead of the villain he actually was. So you got all the older Russians like, that's horrible. And kind of having this anti-Western mythology and this teaching, you know, the propaganda machine that they use over there for the little ones. And they've got anti-Western cartoons where they wrote up this thing that looks like the Statue of Liberty trying to kidnap one of their princesses. And just really this big, huge anti-Western thing. But they still ride Harley Davidson motorcycles, though. But they're anti-Western and they're used as an unofficial arm of the government, like to go in and to, you know, kind of seize places and they're a crime entity. They're an actual crime entity. They sell protection. They do a lot of things, and they took a lot of stuff that they did from the Hell's Angel playbook. You know, so I'm learning about this, and I'm now all of a sudden that's triggering. Oh, because I've got a motorcycle gang aspect in the third book of Brainwaver. It's been developed in the first and second book, but it's coming to fruition in the third book with human trafficking and all this other stuff. So now it's like my passion is, oh, how can I use this for Brainwaver? And I'm still writing Hater's Prayer. So that's the challenge of world building is when you got too many worlds pulling on you, I think.
Sucker punch.
Yep.
Nice. So Zach, let's talk about the worlds that you create.
Well, I'm not an official writer like the other two speakers here, but I mean, for the most part, I have to be plot driven more than character driven because the characters themselves are not even remotely within my control. If you're DMing a campaign, which is where all my world building experience is at, I basically just write a playground and I let the characters go wherever they want to go or be wherever they want to be. So a lot of the plot is based around that. Now, I don't try to lead them by the nose. I try to just nudge them in the right direction of where it is that I want them to go. But ultimately, I just let them flush out the world as they go along, and I make things as needed. Let me see if I can think of a good example. There was, in my most recent campaign, they had come across basically a dungeon in heaven that was basically keeping some of the most ancient dragons in all of existence prisoner. And then it turned into a sex dungeon just because character shenanigans. So that happened kind of all on its own. Some of the things that I've put in there, like kind of like what your mom was talking about, they wrote themselves ultimately. I had put just a little trinket in there that was just supposed to be there for flavor. It was a mirror that had a character on it that would just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down when you asked it a question. And that ended up being the most engaging part of that entire dungeon because my entire party just sat there for like, an hour asking the mirror yes or no questions. And they ended up getting a side quest out of the mirror that I didn't completely have fleshed out. I was just like, oh, maybe there's this thing if they ask them. And then they just went whole hog into the mirror. instead of following what they were actually supposed to be doing in the dungeon, which was getting the thing at the end of it. But that's the kind of experience with DMing as opposed to like straight up world building like you'd have to do for writing a novel or a series, as opposed to just playing a game. Because the world building for a game is a lot different than world building for a book, or at least I'm assuming it is. Haven't written a book myself. I would also like to tag on about the whole getting lost in your own world kind of thing. I don't actually necessarily see that as a bad thing. Just so long as you don't let it interfere with your daily lives. Like if you're shut in for a week and no one that you know has seen you for a week because you've been in your own world, that's a problem. But
Don't judge me.
but being in your own world, well, no, it's a problem because other people care about you and because they want to know that you're like not dead in a ditch somewhere if you're not responding to anybody's messages, stuff like that. But since we've been talking about Game of Thrones, I was watching an interview with George R. R. Martin. And he had said something. I'm not sure if he was quoting somebody else or if this is something he came up with. Someone who reads, as opposed to someone who doesn't, has lived like 100 lives more than the person who doesn't read. Because all the details that you remember when you're reading a book, when you're invested in a book, you dive into it and you're kind of just, you zone out and you're only thinking about or experiencing everything in the book, and everything around you kind of just fades to black. I get that some way just playing games. Sometimes my roommates will be talking to me, and I won't hear a word they're saying because I'm already invested in something completely and utterly. I've been that way with books before, but I haven't had as much time to read as I'd like to recently. But stuff like that is healthy for writing books and building worlds, just because if you can get immersed in your world and you can put that thought to paper correctly, other people can get immersed in your world too. And that helps you write a really immersive book for people to really sit down and enjoy.
And isn't that why you read anyway? I mean, like some people do read for information.
Yeah.
I get that. It depends on what kind of reader you are. Now, I know a lot of guys who are informational readers. Like they read newspapers and they read magazines. They don't really read books, But for them, that's what reading is. It's really for gathering information for whatever purpose. How-to readers, like they love how-to books or what have you.
Or now, I could just gather information on how a mortal kills a fae. Okay.
But you know what I found? Now I am not an information reader. Like a how-to book would literally put me to sleep. But I love those little how-to videos, man. I can watch them little Blossom videos on Facebook. Or cutting up clothes, transforming stuff, and I'm like, wow, you can do that with paper clips. That's so cool. I can watch the videos. But now I see how other people feel conversely about books because I love reading, and I don't understand how anyone cannot love reading. But people will love the movies. They get all caught up in the movies, but not be so quick to get caught up in the human word, the human word, the written word. And so for me, I think that what you were saying is exactly right. That's why we write. Most of us write anyway, so that people can lose themselves. It's escapism, I think, but in a good way. It improves your vocabulary tremendously. But Lucy still tickles me. What's that one word she says? And I just laugh so hard every time she says it. Epitome. It's epitome.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first time ever seeing that word was in a book because I used to read books like you're supposed to drink water. Okay, a book, 2 books a day, down at least. So if it's what? I did 2 books a day. So, and I've been doing that since I was in high school. 2 books a day. Oh, you want me to do math? But I want to read Anita Blake.
She would have the book inside her book in class, looking like she's doing the work.
No, that's not what I did because we didn't have books in class.
Yes, you did in science class. You told me you
got. That was in middle school. No, when I was in high school, I graduated to reading my book on the computer when I was supposed to be doing work because we had laptops. And that is how I got into ebooks, everybody. I have a serious book addiction, and this is how I was lost in my own world for 3 years, okay? Because I would read the book, and then I'd take the book and rewrite the entire thing, and by the time I'm done, it's just a little piece of the book left.
And you can't blame her for it because when she used to go visit her dad, I would go on what we call book vacations. I didn't have the money to travel, so I'd go to the library, check out like 6 or 7 books, camp out in the middle of my bed, and I was gone.
Hmm?
I mean, it was just that serious. My mom was the same type of reader. They were just voracious readers. And that's okay. But I can't blame her for the epitome and epitome thing because, for the longest time, I thought Hermione's name was Hermione until I saw the movies.
I mean, it would help if English isn't like the most fuck written language in existence, except for maybe like Chinese or Japanese or something like that. The kanji on that can be kind of silly, but
But you're
English is
right.
strange.
It
Actually,
is. So that's the downfall, the pitfall of being a reader is you read these words and you think you know them because you sounded them out. We've been taught to sound things out phonetically since we're in
I
kindergarten.
don't want to talk about epitome.
And every time she said it, I was like, babe,
But in my head, it was already solidified because I had already seen it so many times. And like I had already given it its own
and
words.
she'd be so serious with what she was talking about. Mom, that's the epitome of the whole thing.
That's hilarious. Hey, Loopy, look, don't even trip. There's a guy that was on national TV on Wheel of Fortune, and the answer to the question was Achilles tendon. And they said he was wrong because he said Achilles tendon. You can look it up on YouTube. It's
Oh,
out
that's
there.
unfortunate.
It was and this guy he was representing his university.
Oh
It was terrible.
Oh
I was like, they pulled all his money,
I
his
ain't no
scholarship
more
money back.
tenure for you.
They were
no!
like, you know what? You can just pack your clothes and go home, buddy.
He wasn't none of our sweaters no more, none of our sweatshirts. All your gear, you gotta give it back.
But you know what? Once you get into TV and you get into that spotlight, you get nervous and you mess up.
Oh, that's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would give you that, but he messed up on a couple of other puzzles the same way, and I was like, yeah, no, that's something he just nobody ever corrected him. Like nobody ever said, oh no, that's not how you say that.
Well, I have
Uh,
a mother that would read the dictionary for fun as a child. So
My
mm,
brother's
I was
poured water down
corrected.
several televisions. There's a reason why.
I was corrected on everything I said wrong and still am.
And she made
And
up
this is the
phrases.
same lady that says Chick-fil-A. Okay?
what?
That's the way it should be said.
It's Chick-fil-A and it has
It
dashes
should be
in the
phenomenal.
middle of each
It should be
every three
phenomenal.
lip.
I just think that it's so good. It should be Chick-fil-A. You should just be able to sing it. I think it should be a note in
And,
music.
and
It's so
I'll be going to Target right after the podcast.
or how about some Whitey Cassell's? Why not?
Ooh,
Whitey
no,
Cassell.
not Cassell's. No, no, no,
Wild
thank
Builders, remember?
I
All
gotta go
right.
stop over by the All Die.
you. Ooh,
There you go. Jumping on the bandwagon. See,
I'm not with y'all. I'm not. And on
oh,
that note, we gotta go because we've been on this almost 2 hours, and
yeah,
I'm trying to keep
oh,
us short so that people will want to listen to us.
listen to us. We're interested.
So we're gonna segue out, and I'm gonna start with me and end with a dare so he can take us out. And thank you guys for listening. If you are listening, stay awesome. Find me on that loopy chick. That's where anything that comes out of my head goes. I'm still working on a lot of things on that site. I have different sections. I have really quick. I have let's see, blogs, crazy little thing called Love, Romance, Naughty Region, Loopy Thoughts, Anime Discoveries. My fellow Loopy, I'm gonna have guest bloggers that I still have to post. Sorry, Zach. Um,
Okay.
Loopy Land Art Gallery. I have cosplay, photographs, graphic art, digital art. Still adding to that. And so just check out the website again, thatloopychick.wordpress.com. It'll pop up in Google if you toss it in there as well. And this is me starting to get things out of my head. Eventually, I plan to be writing scripts, not books, the scripts. And
You mean screenplays?
same thing.
That's what I was just trying to clarify.
Yeah, screenplays.
Okay.
Stop
Pass,
it.
passing it on to Zach to close for him.
All right. I mean, I guess this is me signing out. I don't have anything to add or sponsor here, I guess. Um, I mean, if I could recommend something, any of your listeners that are interested in like the philosophy of modern media, I'd say go check out Wisecrack. It's a YouTube channel. It's really good.
Beans.
Cool.
So Mama Tay signing out. You guys know if you haven't heard about it, Midwest Creations Publishing. We are a faith-based publishing company that makes faith-based reading fun. Adair is one of our authors. I am one of our authors. We have authors coming in the very future, well, not in the very future, but in the future. So you look for some releases for us in May or in June. We've got the Haters Prayer. Then we've got releases coming up in September, and then we've got some more coming right behind it. I think in October and November. So be on the lookout for those releases. You can find us on Facebook. That's the best way to find us. And we are Midwest Creations Publishing. You can look that up. My personal writing page is the Brainwaver series by Shantae M. James. I'm Mama Tay. I'm signing out, and I thank you for listening to us.
And one more thing before Adair takes us out. Next week, our podcast will be about politics.
Oh
Oh.
Lord.
Politics. Now that means political books, political movies, political conversation. We are going in because I do believe that that is Zach's area of expertise.
Yeah, just shut me up real early if I start grambling on.
No can do, buddy. It'll be your turn.
So we'll basically spend the whole hour and whatever we go over, because we always go over. We'll spend the whole hour going into the political life of whatever. All right, there you go, there.
All right. What up, what up, what up, beautiful people? This is Adair Rowan, aka the father of G1 and G2, signing you off on the Fandom Void. But before I do so, I just want to give another shout out to Midwest Creations Publishing. Check out my book, Concentric Relations, Unknown Ties, and also I'll be coming out shortly or in the near future with Project Ariel, which is an awesome spiritual struggle book that I think will fascinate a lot of people. And just a recap for today. So we talked about John Wick 3. And I have a new appreciation for Halle Berry again. And yes, we also talked about Starship Troopers. And in the words of my man Zachary, and I have to agree, this was a movie basically of fascist propaganda. Yes, it was. So anyway, next time y'all have to check us out on the Fandom Void.
Void.